I know you heard the buzz.
1, 2, 1, 2, it be the plugs getting love. And we're getting all that love, cause nobody do it like us. Everything we touch is gold, that touch might. And it's so fire. We talking music, talking fighters, talking everything that's in between our teams and our desires. So who else would inspire in the DMV? It be Tashman and Vex, your MC. And we on from 6 to 7, happy hour for the streets. This be your man True, Haywood on the beat. And we're going undefeated, cause heads need this. The plugs leave them all in pieces, competition, let's believe it. Welcome to the greatest sports show on earth. What up, DMV? Plugs, go get them.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. You are listening to WERA LP Arlington 96.7 FM. And yes, you know the sound of that theme song. Every Monday here on WERA, you got the plugs with your favorite host, Bex, and the humble DJ, Chris.
What's up?
Just FYI, guys, we almost didn't make it. But, you know, we're clutch like that.
Clutch.
Yeah, much like the Wizards have been this year, starting off the 2017-2018 NBA season 2-0. Have another game tonight. Possibly 3-0. Staying undefeated. We clutch, baby. Yeah.
Clutch.
Yeah.
You gotta talk like that.
Huh?
Clutch.
Yeah. What happened to you today? See, you're the reason we almost missed the show
All right,
today.
look. All right, everybody knew I had the surgery on my knee, the ACL.
Oh, here we go.
So I didn't drive my car for a long time, and for some reason today I drove it for the first time, and it just didn't start working for me. That was it. It's not my fault.
Okay, and then I had to come get you.
Yeah, because you're such a great person.
I am such a great person.
You know?
Yeah. What would you do without me in this world?
Well, a lot of other things.
Like what?
Probably, I don't know, pursue my dreams and not have to deal with your troubles all the time.
My troubles?
Yes, your troubles.
This has been a blessing
This
on
is
you.
what?
It has opened up your personality in various ways that we cannot even describe here on the air.
What, you in my life?
No, you on the air.
Well, yeah, I know, of course. Like, everybody wants me on the air.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we do have a great show for you guys. We're going to talk about NBA regular season. See, I'm having trouble with my mic, so I'm just going to lay it to the side. But yes, NBA regular season has kicked off. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to start off with the Wizards, talk about their season, see what their outlook is now that Boston Celtics star guard Gordon Hayward is out. For the rest of the season, most likely with that gruesome injury in the first game of the year they had against the Cleveland Cavaliers. So we'll see if that opens the door. We'll talk about that. Opens the door for the Celtics to possibly get that number 2 seed, and possibly will this be the year they finally make that Eastern Conference Finals, and something that John Wall has been preaching not only last year but also coming into this year, that this is their expectation. So we'll see if they can do it this year. We'll talk about how they look so far. So far, so good. As I mentioned, top of the show, 2-0. We'll also talk about new faces, new places, see what Kyrie's going to do now that Hayward is out. Talk about the CP3 injury status going on. Golden State 1-2, surprise team in the league. Memphis Grizzlies, OKC had a barn burner of a game yesterday with all their new faces, Melo and PG-13. What a game yesterday with the Minnesota Timberwolves. We just had Dominique Claire on last week when we were talking about the Timberwolves, so irrelevant again. That was a heck of an ending. We'll probably talk about that. Then at about 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time, we will have a special phone-in caller actually joining us from St. Louis. And he is a NFL and LA Rams writer and contributor for NFL Spinzone on Fansided. And he will be calling in. His name is Shane Gray. Yep. And he'll be calling in. We'll talk to him about some LA Rams. You know, the Rams got a 33-0 zilch shutout yesterday over the Arizona Cardinals.
That's 0 for anybody that didn't understand that.
Yeah. Nil is European terms. This is what we call, nil. I'm sure most people know that, but thank you for pointing that out.
Of course, that's what I'm here for.
That's what you're here for, yeah.
Exactly.
So we'll have him on there. We'll talk Rams. 5-2, man. They're probably the number one. They're probably going to be like top 3 power rankings this week. We'll talk about how much stock we can probably put into the Rams' victory yesterday, even with Carson Palmer going out. And then talk about the rest of the NFL with Shane Gray. Probably talk about head coach Sean McVay, him coming from the DMV, DC metropolitan area, and how his impact has been on the Rams. So, should be cool. Again, we're challenging ourselves, We're taking on people, people that cover professional sports all across the country, baby.
Challenges.
We don't just stick to the DMV. Exactly. There you go.
Yeah, see, I got you.
See, I didn't post that video on Instagram of me having that moment where I was staring into the camera, and then I might do that this week, just as a TBT post, maybe this Thursday. Yeah. I actually cut it up, so it's already ready. I just got to put it up.
Can I ask you a question?
Instead of that, I actually put the one of me talking about Odell Beckham and the Giants.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Do you wake up in the morning, just look at the mirror and be like, wow?
No, actually, I don't. I
really feel like that's what you do.
Listen, you know me. You know I'm a very not judgmental person, but like I have really high standards for myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm always critical. Like you remember when we first started off the show at Mason, I was pissed off after every show.
You're being a donkey.
Yeah, I was just like, okay, we could have done this better. We could have asked better questions when we had a guest on or something. Or
No, I understand that. No, that's
okay.
completely. That's not. That's.
Oh,
yeah,
like,
I understand it. I'm just saying in general.
What my
do you just look at yourself and be in the morning?
No,
and be like,
I do
wow?
not. No,
okay.
No,
because I really feel like that's what you do.
I'm not LeBron James posting about him being on the cover of GQ.
Okay, if I was on the cover of GQ, I'd do the same thing.
Professional, yeah.
He's got the right.
Yeah, you're right. What I'm saying is I'm not LeBron, so I don't do those things. But anyway, let us get into our first topic of the day. NBA regular season, Washington Wizards.
Yee.
DJ Chris.
Yee.
What's up with the Wizards this year?
What's up, man? I'm actually impressed. I actually went to the home opener against the 76ers.
You went to the home opener.
Yeah.
Look at you, man. Making moves.
Of course, man. You got to. I got to say, like, even though it has been only 2 games, the Wizards are looking pretty good. Beal did have a little, I wouldn't say sloppy first game against the 76ers, but it wasn't his greatest game. But he definitely bounced back because his mom was there at the Pistons game, the next game.
Mama Beal.
Shout
out Mama Beal.
Yeah. And when John Wall had an amazing shot block at the end of the game, basically to steal the game for the Wizards against the Pistons. And the second game against the Pistons, I mean, the Wizards are definitely, the first game against the 76ers, the issue was it was mainly Wall. It wasn't really spreading out too much. The next game, they spread out the ball pretty good. Porter had 28 points, Beal had 25 points, Wall had 26 points. So it was a pretty good spread out on the floor. But I mean, they got the Nuggets today. Then again, like we talked about this earlier, they haven't really played a great team. You know what I mean? They played good teams, but they haven't really played a great team.
They played the Sixers, who everyone think is going to be...
Trust the process.
Yeah. They haven't really been living up to expectation, but up to this point, Ben Simmons had a really good start to the year. He's looking like...
Simmons looked good in the first game.
Simmons looks like the real deal.
Yeah.
I think he will. Number 1 pick from last year. He was out all year last year, so this is basically his rookie year. But he got bigger, stronger. He looks like the real deal. I don't know what's going on with Markelle Fultz and that shooting... new shooting motion he's going through. I mean, there was a free throw he had in yesterday's game for the Sixers. It hit the bottom of the backboard. It didn't even touch the rim. And I'm like, damn, this is like one of the best shooters in college basketball last year. Anyway, this is the Sixers. I don't know what to make of them. Anyway, so that's one of the victories the Wizards got first game of the year.
First game, yeah, and then
the other one was against the Pistons.
Yeah, now they play against the Nuggets tonight in Denver. They got basically a West Coast because they got the Nuggets and they got the Lakers and they got the Warriors and they got the Kings. So I mean,
all right, let me ask you this question. I'm going to answer it. Okay. So now, coming into the year, everyone had this product. Not necessarily. People were talking about how most of the stars that were in Eastern Conference move west. There are lesser competition or big teams in the Eastern Conference, and Cleveland was going to roll away with the East, and the Celtics were going to be that second team now that Kyrie's there, and they signed Gordon Hayward. To meet them potentially in the Eastern Conference Finals, and the other teams were kind of flying under the radar with the Raptors, who always seem to make the playoffs, but always seem to flunk in the playoffs at some point in time.
Dallas Cowboys are basically type X.
I wouldn't necessarily go that far because they don't have as many expectations strapped on them as the Cowboys do. But then the other team was the Wizards in that mix, But now Gordon Hayward is possibly, and I just want to wish him the best, man. All the best to you, Gordon. I would hope for a speedy recovery. That was a gruesome injury. I remember there was everyone in the stands and all the players on the court took a moment. They took a moment to just kneel and pray for the guy because that looked horrific.
Did you see the Cavs bench?
It was kind of the same reception the players gave to Paul George when he had that gruesome injury for Team USA basketball.
You can hate teams, you can hate players, but you can't see them get hurt.
Right. Yeah. So just want to give him a special shout out. But now that he's out, it's most likely going to...
This is the Wizards season.
It's going to cause the Celtics to take a step back, potentially.
For sure.
Even though I think that Gordon Hayward going out is going to give opportunities for the young guys like Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum to develop quicker than expected. But at the same time, even though Jaylen Brown did have a really good game against the Cavs, he had like 28 points, and he's looking promising. He's an athlete, and Jason Tatum could score the basketball as well. They gave up a lot. The Celtics basically gave up their entire team to secure Gordon Hayward. They gave up, it was Avery Bradley and Kelly Olynyk, and they made the trade for Kyrie. Yeah. So now Kyrie's been struggling up to this point. Was he like averaging like high 30% field goal percentage?
Then again, it's still the beginning of the season. Yeah,
you're right. He's got to get adjusted. New system. He wants to play point guard. But now that Gordon's out, do you think this opens the door for the Wizards to have? I would just want to put it like this. I want to put it straight up for all the DMV faithful, all the DC sports fans. This to me, I look at it in two different ways.
Let me say real quick what I want to say. Let me say what I want to say real quick.
Go ahead.
Because I know where you're going to go with it.
Like, this is like, there is no excuse that they should make Eastern
exactly.
Conference.
I was about to say, no excuse for them not to make the Eastern Conference Finals. And honestly, they could have a very good chance of getting the number one seed in the East. I think they can have a better record than the Cavs.
Possibly, yeah, because the Cavs are...
Because who else in the East right now can compete against them? Celtics are not going to do it. And it's the Raptors. And the Raptors, they're not going to be able to compete against the Wizards or the Cavs.
Right.
So this is the season for the Wizards.
Right, and the Cavs are going through an adjustment period too, because they got, as well as they did the offseason, even losing Kyrie, they got deeper. They're still a relatively new team as well, and we don't know what that team is going to be with Isaiah Thomas coming back in early January, possibly. So they're still adjusting to new faces and integrating those players and chemistry.
With the Wizards,
so it might take them time to get their
And the Wizards still have the same players and the good good players. You know what I mean?
They have the chemistry.
They have the chemistry there.
I said coming into this year, although they did not make as many moves in the offseason. And
I'm going to make this bold prediction.
Chemistry is a big move. That's
underrated.
Right
now, the sixth man of the year is going to be Kelly Oubre. I'm telling you right now.
Yeah, he's been a force.
He's been unbelievable. He's been playing unbelievable right now.
Yeah.
Both offense and defense. You remember last year, his issue was offense. He was always a defensive player. This year, offensively, he's playing amazing.
Right.
You know, he's getting more minutes and he's playing amazing. Especially him hooking up with John Wall. It's been crazy. So I'm telling you right now, that's what my prediction is. I mean, as much as I'd love the Knicks to be up there, but
the Knicks are irrelevant. They might get Eric Bledsoe.
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah, but I agree with you, and like I think the most underrated thing about the Wizards is their chemistry. I think it's the most underrated thing in basketball right now.
And the good pickup that they got, the good pickup the Wizards got, people don't talk about is Meeks. Yeah, Meeks is a very good pickup.
Right, but at the same time, this is how I kind of look at it too. You know how I kind of look at it? It's kind of how it trends in DC sports.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Now I'm not a hater. I'm not a hater at all of DC sports. I actually support all these teams. All these teams are phenomenal. All right, hockey team is phenomenal. Caps always have the number one seed. All right, the Nationals always seem to be the top team in the MLB over the last few years. All right,
Skins, we can just throw them
Skins,
out there.
you know, they're okay this year. We'll see how they do tonight against the Eagles Monday Night Football. Be a good game against my Eagles. But anyway, so. This is how I see it not playing out, but this is potentially what I could see happening, is that they might fall under that DC sports curse.
DC definitely has a curse against them.
It's like it was like last year, Game 7, when John Wall had that horrific, when he had that game winner in Game 6. Remember?
Oh, I was there.
And in the Celtics series of the second round of the conference semifinals, and then he had that bad shooting Game 7. Oh. Now that the Hayward injury happened, there's
no excuse.
I don't think, but that might be the issue, because it might follow the trend of DC sports. Because what did the Nationals do this year in the playoffs? They lost in the first round
the Wizards,
again.
Who else do you think it's going to be? The Celtics?
No. What I'm saying is it might just be I don't know. I don't want to talk about like illusions or myths or anything like that, but it could be the curse, man.
Honestly, no. DC does have a curse against them. The Redskins have their own curse against themselves, but like with every other team, DC has great sports teams.
30 plus years since they won a championship a year.
DC has great sports teams. It's like you said, they always get either the top 1 or 2
and
or 3 seeds.
They have stars on this Wizards team.
And even in hockey and even in baseball, but they can never. It's something in the postseason. They have a curse.
I mean, they're currently number 1 in the East.
Well, yeah, after 2 games.
Well, it's still a nice place to be.
I mean, look, Toronto's tied with them 2-0. It's tied for the first.
I'm not worried about Toronto.
Yeah, exactly.
But
Toronto, I mean, the East is going to look like this. It's going to be the Wizards and Cavs fighting for the first spot, and then Celtics and the Raptors fighting for the second spot. That's literally how or for the third spot. Sorry. That's how it's going to be in the East. Those are the only teams. The East is not as strong as the West. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So that's the other thing is like, let's say hypothetically the Wizards beat the Cavs, correct? Do you think they can beat like a Golden State in a 7-game series?
I don't know.
Can you
yet.
see them doing that?
I don't know yet because I think they learned a lot. I think last year's experience was great for them. But I need to see them in bigger games to see what they're made of.
I mean, they got
Listen, they got championship players on the team.
Oh, for sure.
John
They got
Wall is
easily
a
the best
stud.
point guard in the league.
Bradley Beal's a stud, and they've enjoyed a lot of success not only in the league but also dating back to college. But I've never seen them in those big primetime conference final, NBA final spotlight games quite yet to know what they're made of yet. But you cannot question the talent. And now, coming into this year, you cannot question the chemistry. As much as everyone wanted to make a big deal or about Otto Porter getting that max contract, $100+ million deal this year, I think it was a good move because you're paying for chemistry, which is underrated because it takes a while to get that. I mean, look at all the super teams other than the Celtics in 2008. It took them a little while to get adjusted together. The Heat back in 2011 when they got together. They made the finals, I get it, granted, but they lost to Dallas in that first year, and then so it took them a year or change to get acclimated with each other. Even Golden State was already ready, but I mean, look at OKC so far. They're struggling out the gates. So it takes them a little while to get adjusted. These guys already know how to play each other, and they've been together in big time playoff moments. I think a guy like Markieff Morris probably will learn from his mistakes that he had last year in the playoffs, especially when he was taunting big time players, like when he was taunting Isaiah Thomas, and then Isaiah Thomas dropped 50 on him or something like that. Like that was just like, all right, you're attacking the wrong players. Or a guy in the first round last year, remember when he was taunting Paul Millsap, calling him a crybaby? What did Paul Millsap do to him the next game? Dog. He had like, what was a big game, 30+ point performance. So I think these guys will learn their lesson. Otto Porter's having a really good year up at this point. So I think he's the X factor for them because I think he has to consistently show that he is a number 3 option. And he can't be how he was last year where he was phenomenal, at the end of the year when you saw his numbers, but he was phenomenal the first half of the year because he was shooting the lights out. But then the second half, he kind of like detered down. He did okay in the playoffs, but Otto Porter, now you got paid, man. You got that max contract.
Yep.
Now you Wall got that extension. Beal got the max last year. So now this core 3 is going to be together for years to come. Now it's time for you guys to show that you 3 can become a big 3, and you can be a big 3 groomed similarly to how Golden State did. Because I can see the same effect that happened with Golden State happening with the Wizards.
And what?
Because they built this big 3, this core that they have, from basically the draft.
Yeah.
They drafted all 3 of these guys. The same way Golden State drafted Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and Draymond Green. Okay, they got Kevin Durant.
They're still great before
but
him.
they won a championship without Kevin Durant. So I could see the same effect happening with the Wizards if they finally
they're in the East,
take that step. And this is their year.
Yeah,
this could be the year
is definitely
where we could see an upset. I could possibly see an upset over the Cavs.
I mean,
I can't say that because of the experience the Cavs have, and I think they're going to figure it out, and I think they're just going to roll.
Yeah, and you're definitely
season.
right. But this is the
they got
first
vets,
time
dude. They got players that know how to win championships.
Their
And they
bench
got
can
former.
start.
They got former Finals MVP coming off the bench today. It was announced that Dwayne Wade is asked to be put on the bench, and now J.R. Smith will enter the starting lineup for the Cavaliers. So you have a former Finals MVP that's won a championship without LeBron, and won championships with LeBron on the squad coming off the bench. So you have a lot of experience there. So come playoff time, I think you're going to see Dwayne Wade at his best.
Sure,
I don't think you're going to see the best.
yeah.
I know he struggled up until this point in the regular season. I think you're going to see the best of Dwayne Wade in the playoffs.
Do you think
that could be the ultimate difference is the experienced players and health being a factor?
Do you think the Wizards can beat the Cavs in a 7-game series?
They have the talent to do such, but I think experience is so key, and we've seen it throughout the years that assuming health, again, the Cavs they have experience, but they're older players, so they could possibly get injured. And we know Dwayne Wade's injury history, and Kevin Love's. He shows up. I'm not gonna talk about Kevin Love. He shows up, but he just doesn't show up, and he just hasn't shown up in big primetime NBA Finals key crucial games. That's about it. So they got guys who've been there before. So they've got guys that've been there in positions the Wizards haven't. So they're gonna feel more comfortable.
Let me ask you this: so you were talking about the bench for the Cavs. Like, how do you think the bench is for the Wizards? Because with a good bench they can go far. Let me ask you this better: do you think the bench last season or this season is better?
Well, I think Kelly Oubre is going to be better.
Yeah.
And he's shown he's going to be an important piece for them. Losing Boban Bogdanovic, I think, was big because you need shooting coming off the bench.
But they got Meeks. Meeks coming off the bench
Jody
is good.
Meeks is pretty good. Yeah, you're right. We'll see how that translates. Mike Scott, too.
And Jason Smith
Mike
is
Scott
getting better.
from Atlanta. Yeah, they got Mike Scott from Atlanta who can shoot the ball as well. Yeah, Jason Smith, you're right. I mean, I like this team. It's Jan Mahimi, if he can stay healthy, is a pretty good center coming off the bench to back up from Marcin Gortat. So
this is Sheldon Mack and everything.
This is a good team. All right, this is a good team with a good bench. But it's similarly to how I see the Cavs last year. Was that, remember when the Cavs were in the NBA Finals against Golden State, and then there was that stat I read about when, I think it was in Game 3 or Game 4, when LeBron sat down for 2 minutes, the Cavs were up by like 8, 10, 12 points, and when he sat down for 2 minutes, Golden State went on a 12-0 run. All right, it's similar to how I seen that with the Wizards. Can the Wizards bench keep the game tight or not blow a big lead when their stars go to the bench? Now, I think it's hard for me to... they have a kind of a luxury because I think they can afford to keep at least Wall or Beal on the floor at the same time. But the problem is they're the only two players on the team that can create their own shot. So I think this is going to be another learning curve for head coach. Why am I losing his name?
What? You got me. What I forgot.
Wow. I just pulled a complete blank. It was OKC's coach. Scott? It's not Scott. How the heck did I... Scott Brooks.
Scott Brooks.
Wow. Took me a while. Sorry. I got it, though. I didn't even look it up. Head coach Scott Brooks. I think Scott Brooks has got to create a rotation, at least come playoff time. I know we're looking way down the road. But at least playoff time approaches, I think he's got to have a rotation where at all times he either has Wall or Beal on the floor at one point.
You don't want to...
No, but you at least have one of those guys out on the floor.
That's kind of what he's doing now.
No, but I saw it too many times in the playoffs last... No, but I'm just saying, like, consistently seeing it throughout the playoffs. But, I mean, if this team can stay healthy with this Hayward injury, now the door is open for them. I mean, John Wall...
wide open for them.
John Wall strapped that expectation. He did that last year, too, where he said, hey, we're going to make the Eastern Conference Finals. That's where we see ourselves
going. And they could have, but
they came up short last year. But now... I think he even with Hayward in there, he made that prediction. So now with Hayward
honestly,
out,
even I think with Hayward in there, they could still do it.
At the same time, there was still no guarantee that the Celtics were going to make it that far because this is a completely new Celtics team.
Oh no, for sure. But
they lost their entire team from last year. Isaiah Thomas, Avery Bradley, Jay Crowder, Kelly Olynyk. All these guys are gone. They brought Gordon and Kyrie. Now Kyrie's the only one left standing. And then they drafted Jason Tatum. But anyway, so I don't know what the Celtics are going to be, and it's going to take time for Kyrie to adjust to that new role. But this is their year. We'll see.
Yeah.
All right. We got about 5 minutes or so. So quick impressions about the other new faces and new places so far in the NBA.
Talk about Carmelo?
You could talk about Melo since he's your former Knickerbocker.
He's definitely seems more happy. That's what I can tell you.
Seems happier.
Like when he plays, you can see. But the thing is with like OKC, I'll tell you, and they don't really have defense, dude. Look what just happened with yesterday against the Timberwolves. Carmelo shot the three.
Well, that was a heck of a shot by Andrew Wiggins. That was a banker.
Yeah, but look, I mean,
a reporter asked Andrew Wiggins, "Did you call bank?" He's like, "No." And then Karl Anthony Towns pulled the Paul Pierce quote. He called game. So,
no, but like
that was a heck of a shot by Andrew Wiggins. And Minnesota is no team to mess with. Like Minnesota's a heck of a team.
Oh, for sure.
Now
but
with
the
Jimmy
game
Butler and
before
Jeff Teague.
they lost to the Jazz too. Their defense is not. They don't have a defense. How are they going to expect to play?
What did they score? Like 87 against the Jazz?
Yeah, and the Jazz scored
96. Yeah.
How are they supposed to beat the best, especially in the West? Being in the West.
Well, you gotta think about this, bro. The chemistry is still not there yet for this team, so it's going to take time. Carmelo came late into the season, so that's a big piece. You got to realize that is a big piece to plug in. You know what I mean? That is not a small player to plug in.
A team like the Jazz, they can beat the Jazz.
You're right. Okay, well, they won against the Knicks in the first game.
The Knicks don't count. Anybody can beat the Knicks.
The fact they only beat them by 20 may be a bad sign because they probably should have beat them by 40 with that amount of talent.
I just think they have too many offensive players and not too much defensive players.
Well, here's what I will say. What I saw in the first game is what I told you. What did I tell you a few weeks ago before the season started? The recipe for the OKC to reach their potential.
Melo's got to shoot.
Melo's got to be the leading scorer.
Yeah,
Westbrook got to be triple-double. Low amount of shots taken. What didn't happen in the first? Yeah, more assists. PG's got to be the defensive player. He's got to be all-team first defense. We saw that in game 1. All right. Westbrook only shot the ball 12 times. Now, he had 21 points. He was efficient. Okay?
Yeah.
Because the floor is now more open for him because he has 2 other guys the defense has got to pay attention to, PG and Melo. All right? Melo, actually Paul George led that team in scoring. But you saw Westbrook have a triple-double in his first game, get everyone involved. Now, I think that's the recipe. So, I don't know if Westbrook is going to continue to shoot the ball, that few times.
He only had 6 points in the game against the Jazz.
Yeah, well, that was an offensive struggle. Again, listen, I think
Carmelo had 26 and George had 22,
right now,
6 points?
What I've been seeing from them so far, I think they're in that mode, in that phase of wanting to make it work, and I think getting away from their own individual games they're sacrificing the short term for the long term. Mm-hmm. Because they're sacrificing their individual games now to create chemistry and see how they function together, and so by the end of the year or the middle stage of the year, they'll have gotten that, and they'll get all these. This is where you get all the wrinkles out. You know what I mean? This is the time to do that. Beginning of the year is the time to do that. Okay, you got to figure it out. We saw what could have been potentially the question everyone had about OKC who's going to take the last shot. Mm-hmm. Towards the end of the game, we saw a glimpse of what I think could be the possibility. Westbrook handling the ball, him passing to Melo having catch and shoot open 3 against Minnesota last night, but it's just Andrew Wiggins had that, crazy inbound play to him with like 4 seconds left, and he just made it. He made it from like I don't know how many feet, close to close to midcourt. So I don't know, but
I don't think OKC is going to be as good as everybody keeps saying.
Yeah.
If they keep defending it the way they're going to keep defending, they're not going to beat the Rockets.
It's early, dude. It's early, dude. They're going to create the chemistry. You're going to see. It's going to work itself out. These guys, they're just
I'm not hating.
Westbrook
I'm just saying
they're getting out of they're not playing comfortably right now. I think they're doing it on purpose because they want to see what this team can be. They don't know what this team is going to be. It was the same thing when LeBron and Wade got together, because both of those guys were ISO players. Both of those guys were number 1 options. So it took them a little while to get used to each other. And then Dwayne Wade started throwing LeBron, alley-oop passes, mm-hmm. and then that's all she wrote. They wanted to win 2 out. They wanted to go 4 trips to the finals and 2 finals victories. So we'll see. But anyway, we're going to take our first commercial break, and when we do come back, we will have our special phone-in guest, Shane Gray. Excuse-moi. Shane Gray on the line, talk LA Rams and NFL Week 7. Listen to the plugs on WERA LP Arlington 96.7 FM. We'll be right back.
Hey all you beautiful WERA listeners, it's your local fun guide Karen. Do you have something fun and exciting planned for this weekend yet? It's right around the corner. Maybe you're going to check out that new exhibit or hit up that party downtown everyone's talking about? Better yet, did you hear about that festival going on out in Virginia? No? Well, you must not be listening to Karen's calendar then. Join me right here on Radio Arlington every Friday afternoon at 12:30 to hear all about the best events going on in the metro area over the next week. Everything from parades to live music, pop-ups to museum events. I'll tell you the who, what, where, when, why, and how of everything that's on Karen's calendar and where to be in the DMV.
On Practical Security, we provide tips to help you protect yourself, your home, your community, and your workplace from security threats, including digital danger in cyberspace. We discuss topics like the Internet of Things, avoiding identity theft, medical device security, and social media safety. Join the discussion as we share preventive measures and resources that empower you in managing your security, safety, and privacy. Practical Security with host Beverly Allen airs Thursdays from 11 to 11:30 a.m. on Radio Arlington.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back. You're listening to The Plugs on WERA LP on 96.7 FM with your favorite host, Bex, and the humble DJ, Chris. And we had a little bit of a scheduling, not conflict, but we're going to have Shane Gray on the line at actually 6:35. So we have another few minutes left until we get him on. But it's okay. We manage. Because you know what? We can work on the fly. And that's what we do, right, DJ Chris? Who's not on his phone right now and paying attention to me.
We
work on the fly, right? We just got a message right now saying 6:35, not 6:30. And we're like, okay, we can do this. This is what we do.
Right, we
DJ
do
Chris? All right, so we got a few minutes, about 4 minutes or so. I'm going to give the floor to you.
What's up?
DJ Chris. Floor to you. Quickly, let's talk about
I'm sorry.
Redskins Eagles. Monday Night Football tonight.
The Giants gonna win.
They got well, Giants are 1-6 now, dude.
Huh?
Giants are 1-6.
Yeah, we're gonna go 10-6. Hello.
Oh, here we go. Oh, Aaron Rodgers, RELAX.
No, LOSE.
Oh, what did I tell you about Green Bay? They lost yesterday too. I told you last week. All right, Redskins, Eagles. Impressions.
What do I think is gonna happen?
Games at Lincoln Financial, where I think
the Redskins gonna
Redskins
lose.
have actually had a lot of success.
I think the Redskins
at
gonna
Lincoln
lose.
Financial. Oh, that's what you think?
I think they're gonna lose.
So you're gonna give my Eagles props?
No,
Finally?
I hate the Eagles. Okay,
We're gonna be 6-1 after, potentially after tonight.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the Eagles are. Eagles are too hot right now. The Redskins. You saw them against San Francisco.
Here's what I'll say. Here's what I say, and I think the Redskins can exploit this. Now, people have been raving about Carson Wentz and how well he's been playing this year. I agree. He's been one of the most spectacular quarterbacks this year. And when Aaron Rodgers got that injury last week, Vegas had lifted him up to the MVP favorite, ahead of a guy like Tom Brady, who did have a show out last night against his Super Bowl rematch against Atlanta Falcons. So,
yeah.
Here's what I'll say about the Redskins. I think what's being hidden about Carson Wentz and how well he's been performing is that most of the time he's having short fields to play with, and it kind of reminds me of how Cam Newton won his MVP back in 2015. Because how did the Carolina Panthers have the stellar season that they did, and why did Cam Newton have so much success? Because their defense was
carrying him.
Led the league, or was like top 2 or top 3 in
just like the Broncos
in turnovers. No, in turnovers.
Just like the Broncos when they won with Payton.
No, but listen, let me finish.
Okay, finish.
And Cam Newton was working with short fields. That's why you saw his touchdown to interception ratio.
Like Peyton Manning. It's just like what the Broncos did.
What?
Just like what the Broncos did.
Oh, that 1 year.
Yeah.
Okay, but he wasn't. I'm talking about MVP Cam Newton. Not talking about Peyton Manning on one shoulder. About 1 foot out the retirement door, Peyton Manning.
True.
Like, he wasn't putting up 300 plus yards and 3 passing touchdowns with that defense giving him short yards. He was putting up 100 yards. Anyway, back to my point. Carson Wentz with the Eagles right now is I see his play this year similarly to how I saw Cam Newton back in 2015, because similarly to how the Carolina defense back in 2015 gave Cam Newton short fields is the same way the Eagles are giving Carson Wentz short fields, and he's capitalizing on it. Now, I give him credit, he's capitalizing on it the same way Cam Newton capitalized in 2015. He got himself an MVP award. So Carson Wentz is looking like he's following down that path.
Look what happened after that.
And that's exactly what happened Thursday Night Football last week against, ironically, the Carolina Panthers. Carson Wentz had 3 passing touchdowns on 3 times the Eagles had possession of the ball on the Carolina side of the field. So, I will say this to the Redskins. If you want to, this is, I think, game plan to success. Don't turn the ball over.
That's
Don't turn the ball over and control special teams and control time of possession and not control time. Yeah, time of possession, and control field. Field position is going to matter in this game crucially. Yeah. So
yeah, no, I mean, yeah, the Redskins. The thing with the Redskins is that they gotta, like what you said, they gotta control the line of scrimmage.
Right.
They gotta control the line of scrimmage. The Eagles' defense is like what you're saying. It's too much. It's too strong. As much as it pains me to say this,
don't let it pain you.
it pains me to say this, but the Redskins, they gotta run the ball against that team.
Right.
They gotta run the ball against the Eagles. You can't rely on Kurt, because you rely on Kurt too much. Even this season, if you rely on Kurt too much, he'll end up going. He'll end up throwing an interception, and it's just going to throw away the game. They gotta run the ball. They gotta run it with
field position. I'm trying to tell you, field position matters in this game.
Oh, for sure.
So Redskins, try not to turn the ball over. Kirk Cousins has been doing pretty well without turning the football over. So, and then special teams, your punter's gonna punt it and get the Eagles to have long fields. To have to try and score on. So that's my game. As much as it pains me to give out the game plan for how to beat my Eagles, I'm trying to be objective here and trying to give all these Redskins.
I mean, the Redskins have the chance only if they run the ball, if they can efficiently run the ball. Because you're not gonna win with keeping the ball in Cousins' hands against the Eagles.
It's going to be hard.
Lincoln Financial
It's going to be hard to keep Carson Wentz in the pocket too, because he's been one of the best. His athleticism is off the charts. Then, like the way he's able to escape. I mean, remember it was the first. Was it the first series? I don't remember. It was the first play against that first week against the Redskins in Week 1 in FedEx when he had that. It looked like he was going to get sacked, kind of like Eli Manning Super Bowl-esque to David Tyree, and then he escaped it, and then he threw a bomb of a touchdown to Nelson Aguilar for the first score of the game. So. The Redskins, it's not only getting to Carson Wentz, but putting him down once you get to him, and that's better. That's easier said than done.
And it is. I mean, and it's like what we said before about
because
the Redskins.
6 teams have tried to do it, only 1 has succeeded.
Yeah,
and that would be the Kansas City Chiefs.
And this is the thing.
Who Andy Reid has coached the Eagles. So, and Doug Peterson, Eagles head coach, is his disciple. Andy Reid's disciple. Out of Kansas City and previously when he was with the Eagles. So
I mean, the only thing I gotta we said this earlier about the Redskins, and especially when it comes to
you gotta stop LeGarrette Blount too.
You guys, it's
who's averaging 5.6 yards per carry.
It's consistency.
Yeah,
it's right. Like one game they'll play great against Kansas City.
Well, the injuries have been piling up. Like Norman has been banged up.
Still, they play great against Kansas City.
Yeah.
They go on a bye.
What's his name? Allen. Allen is out for the year. The rookie.
Yeah, Jonathan Allen.
Allen out for the year.
But the thing, they go out. I mean, I kind of saw that coming. Everybody kind of saw that coming with this
those were the question mark going into the draft with them.
What's it called? Yeah, they go on a bye, and then they almost lost to San Francisco. How do you almost lose to San Francisco? I mean, coming from a Giants fan, but still, the Eagles, the Redskins, they gotta stay consistent. They gotta run the ball. It's the same idea when it comes to the Giants. Less the ball's in the quarterback's hand, the better chance of you winning. It's the same thing because Cousins, you put him under pressure, he's gonna mess up.
No, man, he's actually played phenomenally this year.
Yeah, but you're gonna put him on the game-winning drive.
I'll give him credit. He's had a lot of injuries and a lot of players, a lot of change to his wide receiver cast. Coming into this year, Terrell Pryor hasn't been that receiver everyone thought he would be for this team, and he has made the most of the little options that he's had to work with, and he's been I think he's taken the next step in running with the football. I think he's being more assertive in running for first downs, and surprisingly he's got some agility, some legs in him, some chicken wings.
I mean, because the offensive line is
he's been picking up a lot of first downs by running the football, and he's been sliding. So he is looking more poised. He's having one of his best
RG3 when he kept running. He's got to be careful because I don't know who else they're gonna have.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And I don't know. It's just the Redskins, man. They're inconsistent. I don't know how much more I gotta say. I mean, I do give them a chance to play against the Eagles because the Redskins usually do play well against the rivalry teams. Like when it comes to the Cowboys or the Eagles or the Giants, but the Eagles. The thing is in this game is that the Eagles don't have to change their game plan. The Redskins do.
All right. Well, on that note, we're gonna take another commercial break, DJ Chris, and when we do come back, we're gonna try because it seems we're having some technical difficulties. We're gonna try and get Shane Gray from NFL Spinzone covers the LA Rams and the NFL on the line after the break. We're going to try. And if not, we're going to improvise because that's what we do, right? Because we the plugs, baby.
We
get things done, bro. And we accept them and we take them on and we beat them. All right, listen to the plugs on WERI LP Arlington 96.7 FM. We'll be right back.
I think curiosity is the basis of life.
I'm Lynn Borton, host of Choose to be Curious, a show all about curiosity. We talk about research and theory, but mostly it's conversations about how curiosity shows up in work and life.
I mean, curiosity is sort of the start of everything, because once you're curious about someone, and then you get to know them, then you get to find their humanity.
You surprise me, actually, with these interviews you've done, because I realize scientists don't really have the lock on curiosity.
I hope you'll join me right here on Radio Arlington, Wednesday mornings at 10 or Friday afternoons at 2:30 to talk about curiosity and everything from writing to challenging racism, finding one's entrepreneurial spirit, and reaching across political distance. Come, choose to be curious.
Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the plugs on WERI LP Arlington 96.7 FM, which your favorite host, Bex, and unfortunately, my DJ, the humble.
Why unfortunately? What did I do to you?
Because you're an unfortunate excuse for a human being.
That is really messed up.
That's probably the nicest thing I've ever said to you.
That is really
and that
messed
is
up.
That is not,
you know,
that is a fact.
I think
All right.
I think I heard you from all the way down there.
Listen, man. You're going to put a sock in it because your Giants lost, okay? And you predicted they're going to make this run. It didn't happen, all right?
I said
Just,
10-6.
They had less than 10 points yesterday.
I had 10-6.
Anyway, let us get back. We do have our special guest on the line. We have some technical difficulties, but you know what? The plugs make things happen.
Chris,
and we make
DJ
things
Chris
work.
makes things happen.
And yes, we got him on the line now. So joining us from the great city of St. Louis is NFL and LA Rams contributor for NFL Spinzone. We got Shane Gray on the line. What's up today, Shane?
Hey, what's up, guys? It's great to be here on the plugs and good to be talking about the Los Angeles Rams and the National Football League.
Yeah, well, it's great to have you on. My guy Palmer Alexander says spoken highly of you, so I'm sure you're phenomenal at what you do, and glad we were able to get you on the air.
Yeah, I appreciate it, and there's nobody better as a human being or when he used to cover the Rams when they were in St. Louis than Palmer Alexander. As you guys know, there's not anybody more real or more raw.
Yeah,
the legend Kill.
The legend Kill. He always gets me with that. I like to give him a little more grief than I did with you since it's the first time we've had you on the air. Every time I introduce him, I mention calling us from St. Louis, and then I talk about, St. Louis not having a NFL or pro basketball team, and then, kind of throw shots at him in little ways like that. But I don't want to do that with...
You don't want me hanging up on you on the first call. Yeah, we better just keep moving.
That's a great point. That's exactly why I didn't do such.
It's okay. You could be a Giants fan.
Yeah.
There you go.
Now, I remember, you had told me that you were, accredited St. Louis Rams, covering them for NFL Spinzone. So first question before we dive into Los Angeles Rams season so far this year, how did it feel for you when you heard the news that they're going to move from St. Louis back to Los Angeles?
Well, it was especially tough. I covered the stadium situation along with the football side. I covered the stadium situation very in-depth for the last, I think from 2013 until the move for 101 ESPN and then Inside STL. Talked with the task force a lot, talked with people with the NFL and so forth. And there was very high hopes with the people in St. Louis. In fact, with less than 2 weeks before the move was announced, when the Rams put out their relocation proposal, the task force people told me, and I quote, view their relocation proposal and the details therein as a Hail Mary. They thought they had the votes to block the move. So yeah, they were kind of shocked at the result, and of course it was tough on everybody in St. Louis to lose their NFL team after 21 years.
Does it hurt? Okay, I gotta ask this question. Does it hurt finally seeing the Rams doing good, but when they're not in St. Louis?
Yeah, right.
You know what? That's an exceptional question, and to be honest, it really does. It hurts a lot of people, that were fans for so long. You got to remember, guys, this team had not been to the playoffs since 2003.
Right.
We're talking the last 12 years in St. Louis. They were not in the playoffs. They didn't have a winning record since 2004. and then to see them in their second year in LA being 5-2 and looking now like a legitimate playoff contender and possibly a team that could win a game or two in the postseason. Yeah, it definitely hurts. It definitely hurts for everyone back in St. Louis and in Missouri.
All right, well, let's talk about them this year. And you mentioned it; they've had a stellar and spectacular season up until this point. After 7 games, 5-2, number 1 in their division. Jared Goff has been playing lights out. I mean, and yesterday they had a shutout against the Arizona Cardinals, 33-0, and they held Adrian Peterson in check. Even though most of the time, the Cardinals had to play catch up for the majority of the game, and then Carson Palmer went down with that injury in the second quarter after throwing an interception. But how legitimate are they this year? Even though their record has been fantastic. But I've seen teams, especially here in D.C., we're used to, like, for example, the Redskins started off 4-2 last year, and they kind of stumbled in that second half of the season when games got tighter, and then you were getting close to playoff mode, and teams were starting to bring it more often. So what do you think about the Rams up at this point in time in the season? What do you think they're going to be, heading towards the end of the year?
I think there's still a little bit left to be determined. I think it's too early to say, look, these guys are somebody like the Patriots that you can count on. They're gonna finish strong year after year. It's still a very young team, and success is new to them still. And as good as they are at 5-2, they're a few plays away from being 2-5.
Right.
So I think with all the improvements they've made, number one, it all starts with their offensive line. Market improvements in the pass blocking, especially, but also in the run game. And then head coach Sean McVay, his blueprints are all over this team.
Right.
Just an immense improvement over what they were doing with the Stone Age offense of Jeff Fisher to what he's implemented on that side of the football. And again, for Rams fans, they should be excited about what they're seeing, but it's a little too early yet to put them in that just elite class. Because they really haven't dealt with much adversity yet this year. What happens when they get punched in the mouth and maybe they lose a couple games, pass protection breaks down? Then we'll see what this team really is.
Right, and I absolutely agree with you. Going back to head coach Sean McVay, obviously that's a guy that's kind of close to our hearts, close to home here in D.C., being the former offensive coordinator of our Redskins, and now him being the head coach, the youngest head coach in the NFL for the Rams. And you talked about the difference, and he's been from what they had with Jeff Fisher. I mean, can you speak more in depth of what you've seen from Sean McVay and the specific differences you've seen from McVay as opposed to a guy like Jeff Fisher?
Well, number one, going back to just the McVay hire,
right.
I was a little skeptical at first, and maybe you were, a lot of people were, when you think, what could go wrong with a first-time head coach? This guy had never been a head coach at Pop Warner High School, any level. So here he is at 31 years old, being hired as an NFL head coach in the second largest market. So you're like, okay, this could explode. But, it hasn't. It's worked out phenomenally. Number one with McVay, there's been just an enhanced sense of focus. These guys are very attention detailed. They're confident. They come out ready to play every week. Whereas with Fisher, they might show up once a month. These guys are ready to go. They're energetic. They're confident. And they just have a sense of that they just have that thing that winning teams have. Sometimes it's hard to put your finger on, but right now they've definitely got it, and he's definitely getting the best out of this roster.
Do you see the Rams as like a legitimate contender in the NFC? Like, can you see them going far in the playoffs?
Right now at 5-2, it's hard to argue against that, but I think there's still a long way to go, as you guys know. And they've got some really, really tough games coming up after the bye. I think right now, if I had to go plus or minus one at a one-loss record, I would go 9-7, 8-8 at the bottom, 10-6 at the absolute top. And, that puts you about at that wild card range. Maybe winning the NFC West with 10 wins. Seattle's a little bit down. It's always hard, as you guys know, when it's your first year in the playoffs. unless you're the 1999 Rams, to get in and
Yeah.
and go really deep in the Super Bowl. But hey, you never know. You get in and you win a game, and you win another game, and all of a sudden you're right there going for all the marbles. So I think this team definitely has a chance to get to the playoffs. I think it's asking a little much to think they're going to do a lot when they get there. But as you guys know, you never know for sure when a team gets there what they might do from that point on.
Yeah. So let me ask you this from like a fan standpoint. Who do people root for in St. Louis now? Like, do they root for the Rams? Do they root for Kansas City? Because that's like the closest team to them.
That's a great question, and believe me, there's a lot of people that their fandom now in St. Louis is actually whoever is playing against the Rams.
Wow.
For example,
Yeah.
a lot of people considered their team's record last year as 12-4, and that's because the Rams went 4-12.
Right.
So they considered that they went 12-4. There's still a lot of that. There's still a rather small minority of people that they don't have a team in St. Louis, so they're still cheering for the Rams.
Right.
But there's a lot more that aren't cheering for the Rams. As far as other teams go, you've got some people that are pulling for the Kansas City Chiefs. That's kind of one of those in-state rival things. So there's actually a lot of people that are having trouble making that switch over to pull for KC.
Well, they can go for Chicago.
There's actually a lot of people that are pulling for the Tennessee Titans, probably more than anybody. Indianapolis Colts #2. You got a few with the Chicago thing, but if you guys think back to baseball with the Cubs, Cardinals,
That is true, yeah.
it's hard. I mean, it just in the Blackhawks and the Blues, you don't see a lot of people that's going for the Chicago Bears, due in part to some of those other rivalries in baseball and hockey. So really, the Titans, Colts, and maybe the Chiefs might be #3.
So did
on that list.
So did like football in general in St. Louis like go down since the Rams left, or has this been kind of like the same?
It's definitely went down some when you don't have a home market team, and the closest one is 3 or 4 hours away. It obviously some of the interest is down, and then St. Louis has lost not one but 2 NFL teams. So
Right.
Yeah.
there's just so many people in the market that are just fed up with the National Football League. They feel like the process was very dishonest in the Rams being allowed to move. And when you get burned not once but twice, and you're left standing there, without a squad to pull for in your home market, it's tough for a lot of people to deal with that and still remain a fan of the National Football League.
Right, no, and it is tough, and I think St. Louis fans have been through a lot, and I guess my question is, you've seen, as you mentioned, the Rams left not once but twice. What do you think the city of St. Louis, which I think, and probably you think, living there, is a great city, and I think has some great sports fans there. What do you think the city of St. Louis needs to do in order to get a pro team, like either a pro football or pro basketball team, back into that city and keep them there consistently? Is there something the city can do to probably change, the Rams leaving numerous times?
Yeah, the number one thing, guys, is St. Louis and St. Louis County. The metro area is a divided. It's not really. It doesn't work together. If you go all the way back to the Cardinals moving in 1987, the Cardinals didn't want to move. They did not want to move. They actually had their players going door to door trying to get support. Bill Bidwell did not. He didn't want to go to Arizona. He actually, and this is a true, 100% true story. He cried the day he signed the lease to move to Arizona. He tried for several years, and the county and the city couldn't get out of its own way. And it was just a shame. If they had worked in unison, the Cardinals would still be there. The Rams was a different story. Kroenke wanted out. He wanted the second largest market. But for anything to be successful long term, as far as you said, bringing in an NBA team or another NFL team at some point, there's got to be some unification between the city and the county. And until that happens, even if they were to get a team from one of those two leagues, there's a good chance they could run into some more problems as far as, keeping them beyond that first 25, 30 years.
All right. You're right. You're absolutely right. And, we see some other great cities, like, for example, the Oakland Raiders making that move to Las Vegas. So there's just so much going on with that. So
and the thing is with St. Louis, guys, if I could add real quick, this city, there were some people, and they had their motives. They were pushing hard to paint St. Louis as a bad NFL market. But for the people who actually did their homework and know the attendance and the TV ratings and so forth, before the moving rumors started, before Kroenke got on board and wouldn't talk to the fans, before the worst 5 years in NFL history, before a decade plus of no winning seasons. Between 1995 and 2008, that stadium was packed, and there was a lot of bad years in there. All but 1998, that place was packed at or right at capacity. So the fans are not the problem there. 99 to 2005, guys, if you were at the Dome, you could be standing right next to your wife or your kids or whatever, and you wouldn't be able to hear yourself. They couldn't hear you if you screamed. That place was just rocked.
Right.
And the fans have never been the problem there, but ownership and the city not, doing what it needed to do to keep the franchise has been the problem.
Okay. Well, I wish the city of St. Louis nothing but the best. All right, Chen, we got about 30 seconds left on there. Here's what I want you to do. All right, first, I want you to pick tonight's game, Monday Night Football, Eagles, Redskins, quickly, and then any last shout-outs or last thoughts before I head on out.
Yeah, the first thing with the Eagles and Redskins, what city are we on right now? What city are we on the radio on right now?
DC, basically. Arlington, DC.
Okay,
yeah.
And this is my first time here, right?
Yeah.
These are rhetorical questions, but I got to go with the Redskins.
Wow.
Considering the circumstances, I got to go the Redskins all the way in this one for you guys. And they got a good shot.
I mean, I'm an Eagles fan and my DJ's a Giants fan, so that's not an issue for us. You can pick against them.
And you guys and everybody out there can follow my work at NFL Spinzone. S Gray is where you can find me. S Gray at NFL Spinzone. And be sure, we were talking about Palmer Alexander earlier. Everybody, be sure to follow him on Twitter at The Legend Kill, and also the In the Zone Network, In the Zone USA sites on Twitter as well.
Yeah, he's absolutely phenomenal, man. Paul Myers is my guy. Well, I want to thank you so much for joining us today, Shane. It was awesome having you on for the first time, and glad you spent a couple minutes with us, and hopefully we can do it again sometime soon.
Absolutely, anytime.
All right, thanks, man. Take care.
Yep. All right, you too.
Alrighty. Well, that was a great conversation. Well, we got to get on out of here, ladies and gentlemen. But we'll be back next Monday. Any last thoughts, words?
10-6 Giants.
All right. On that note, we're going to get on out of here.
And why the Yankees have to lose.
Thank you so much for listening to us today, ladies and gentlemen.
Why
Thanks
can't New
again
York
to
win in
Shane
anything?
Gray, NFL contributor for NFL Spin Zone and LA Rams coverage for them. Thanks again for joining us. We'll be back next Monday.